The Untold Adventures of Biao. Season 1. Episode 39. At dawn, blind old Lu led Biao and Fei to Khan's place. It was an inn at the back of the market. It looked like there was a transaction going on. Right after catching the demon, blind old Lu took Biao and Fei to Khan's place to receive the reward. In contrast to the calmness of blind Lao Lu, Biao was extremely worried. He was worried if the two of them were up to something. Blind old Lu not only asked Biao and Fei to fight with the demon, but he also took them together to claim the money. It was so annoyed to Biao. A moment later, blind old Lu and Khan waved to each other, both of them not forgetting to smile before saying goodbye. Perhaps the transaction went well. Biao and Fei saw this and quickly ran to blind old Lu. He seemed to understand the two boys' intentions, took out the money from his pocket and shared it with them. "Uncle Lu, you don't have to be in such a hurry. We don't really need the money in that rushing. You make us feel ashamed. Uncle Lu is the best. I'm starting to like your working style." Old Lu began to share the money. However, Biao felt worried because he was afraid that blind old Lu would share the money equally among the three of them. However, blind old Lu's action made him surprised. Blind old Lu took his and Fei's money out of the pocket and then gave Biao the rest still in the bag. "Here's your money. I always work neatly and quickly. This 2,000 is Fei's, take it. I also took 2,000 for myself and the remaining 2,000 for Biao." Blind old Lu emphasized that the amount left in the bag was 2,000 and gave it to Biao. At this time, Biao felt respect for blind old Lu for well handling the situation. After finishing the work, blind old Lu picked up the stick and told the two of them to go home. Fei still didn't seem to believe that the amount left in the bag was 2,000, so he kept asking, "Biao, I think your bag is so thick, is there any mistake? Stop being bullshit. Let's prepare to go home instead of talking nonsense." Biao was worried that Fei would find out the truth, so he avoided and ran in front of blind old Lu and asked him about his adventure stories in the past. When Fei heard that, he no longer cared about the money and focused on listening. Mr. Gong once told Biao that when blind old Lu was young, he was very cool. Blind old Lu heard Biao mentioned about the old story, then paused for a moment and sighed. "Why do you remind me of the old story? It makes me feel sad again. If I wasn't greedy for money, it wouldn't be as pathetic as it is today." Blind old Lu began to talk about his life. According to him, blind old Lu was a strong and stylish man with superior strength and intelligence in his youth. However, Biao and Fei didn't seem to believe it at all. 30 years ago, at that time, Mr. Lu was only about 30s. He also followed in the footsteps of his ancestors, going from place to hunt for treasures, and his reputation resonated throughout the region. That day there was a rumor that a human-shaped ginseng appeared on the mountain. He immediately went up the mountain as soon as he heard the news. He even took out his wooden treasure box as bait. The story was about Mr. Lu's journey to find the human-shaped ginseng. It was said that ginseng had a very different root system than the common one. Its roots were extremely large and could be up to 10 meters long. Its roots were long in order to absorb the souls of the 1,000-year-old trees around it. As soon as he buried his wooden box in the ground, Mr. Lu used a string, tied it up, and made a circle on the ground. Then he carefully stretched the rope to the edge of the forest and hid behind a big tree, waiting for the opportunity to come. Mr. Lu stayed there waiting for a week. For ordinary people, a week might be a long time, but for treasure hunting adventurers like him, it was completely normal. It was still worth waiting for 5 or 10 years to get such a precious treasure. This work always required patience. During the day, he hunted animals in the forest for food. At night, he sat under the tree to wait for the ginseng. On that day, he felt something unusual. There was a strange scent appearing around the area where he had set the trap earlier. He focused on observing, and just as he felt, from a distance appeared a human-shaped ginseng. It was approaching from the opposite edge of the forest. This human-shaped ginseng was not as cute as he thought. It was actually a cultivated ginseng. Although it had the shape of a human, the face was extremely hideous, looking like an old man. It was about to dig for the wooden box when it was suddenly dragged to the underground. It turned out that Mr. Lu had cast a spell on the wooden box. The ginseng squealed miserably. Mr. Lu saw that his opportunity came. He pulled the string to activate the trap and caught the ginseng. Then he threaded the string through the coins. These coins slid along the string to where the ginseng was. When all the coins slid down, Mr. Lu stepped closer. Seeing ginseng with his own eyes made him so happy because this was a very rare treasure, once 1,000 years. He arranged 5 coins in a star array around the ginseng. This ginseng cultivated for a long time, so it would easily escape the trap if he didn't do so. Then, Mr. Lu took out his tools. He knew that if copper or iron tools were used, the ginseng roots would be broken. So Mr. Lu decided to use a silver tool after thinking for a while. He took out a small silver shovel and began to dig. Because this ginseng was a very rare treasure, he dug carefully. He dug little by little to avoid damaging the root. After a while, the root of the ginseng appeared. Just by looking at this root, he could know for sure its enormous value. It was really 1,000-year-old ginseng. Mr. Lu was excitedly digging when he suddenly heard a sound behind him. He was startled and then looked back, but he also did not forget to stab the silver shovel into the coins to prevent the ginseng from running away. When Mr. Lu turned around, he spotted a person. Seeing a stranger appeared, Mr. Lu quickly introduced himself and emphasized that he was a foreigner who came here just to dig for treasure, nothing else. After introducing himself, he asked for the identity of the opposite mysterious. But contrary to what he thought, the stranger did not answer but slowly approached him instead. This person was tall and thin, with a straw hat on his head. When the person approached, Mr. Lu discovered that this person's entire body was all bright yellow. He felt something was wrong and pretended to turn away. "All right. I won't dig treasure here anymore and leave it to you." But after walking a few steps, he immediately pulled out his sword and cut the stranger. "This monkey, I know it's you. Go to die." It turned out that Mr. Lu already guessed out what it was. His slash tore through the straw hat and revealed the mysterious identity. Mr. Lu was not wrong. It was not a human but a spirit monkey. This monkey often pretended to be a human to harm people. The face of the monkey was extremely ferocious. It stretched out its sharp iron claws, preparing to attack him. Mr. Lu guessed that the monkey wanted to fight with him for the ginseng. He took out his sword and decided to fight against it. This monkey was extremely powerful due to its great strength and agile body. It rushed toward lightning fast to attack Mr. Lu. However, Mr. Lu was no ordinary person. He used to fight against many types of yokai. When the monkey charged, he did not dodge but even cut it with the sword. Mr. Lu's sword was a powerful weapon. With just one slash, it cut the monkey in half. After seeing the monkey that was cut in half, Mr. Lu felt very satisfied. He did not expect to encounter and eliminate this yokai during this trip to hunt for treasures. This spirit monkey had harmed many villagers and hunters. Fortunately, Mr. Lu killed it and brought peace to everyone. When he was about to put the sword away, Mr. Lu discovered that the monkey was still not dead even though it was cut in two. Its bodies were still moving. Those two body parts suddenly recovered. The upper body grew legs while the lower body grew head. In just a moment, two body parts became two monkeys. It looked like the monkey was just the fusion of these two. Two monkeys rushed towards Mr. Lu. He began to worry because it was difficult for him to fight two enemies on his own. He was at a complete disadvantage. The two monkeys did not give him time to think, immediately attacked Mr. Lu from both sides. The spirit monkey was an extremely dangerous species because its claws and teeth were extremely hard and sharp. Even skilled hunters could not defeat it, even those who could hunt tigers. Two monkeys attacked from left and right, forcing Mr. Lu into a completely passive position. The one on the left approached Mr. Lu first. It jumped and bit hard on his hand, but he was lucky to dodge it. Then Mr. Lu punched it hard. However, that punch didn't seem to affect it at all. The first monkey to attack Mr. Lu missed. It started snarling around. Meanwhile, the other monkey attacked him from behind. Mr. Lu sensed danger from behind and turned to fight back. The monkey used its sharp iron claws to attack him so fast that he did not have time to react. It scratched his eye. For a moment, he felt the excruciating pain and everything turned black. His eyes were cut by the monkey, and blood spurted out a lot. He fell to the ground in pain and cried out. At this moment, he felt one monkey picked up his sword while the other laughed at him. Although he could no longer see anything, Mr. Lu could still felt the actions of the two monkeys. His life was in danger. At this moment, a loud voice suddenly appeared that surprised Mr. Lu. He did not think that in this remote wilderness, anyone could save him. Turned out that the person was Mr. Gong. Mr. Gong not only saved Mr. Lu's life, helped him drive away those two monkeys, but also helped him dig up the ginseng. The person who drove those two monkeys away to save me and helped me dig up ginseng was none other than Mr. Gong. That day, your father accidentally saw the incident, immediately helped and saved my old life. From then on, Mr. Lu was extremely grateful and became close to Mr. Gong. Mr. Lu's current job was also introduced by Biao's father. So Mr. Lu found that losing his eyes wasn't such a bad thing. Through the story of blind old Lu, Biao felt more proud of his father. The reputation of Mr. Gong was not just a baseless rumor. Being the son of Mr. Gong, Biao also benefited from that reputation. You see, Fei, my father is no ordinary man. And I'm his only child, so don't look down on me. You're bragging again, aren't you ashamed to say that? Blind old Lu suddenly said that he had a present for Biao. He took out an old book and gave it to him. He said that the book was useless to him and that Biao asked him to be his teacher anyway. Biao didn't know what this book was. But even so, he still understood that this was a precious book because blind old Lu kept it carefully. Biao understood very well but still did not forget to say a joke to make everyone laugh. Is this the book Kama Sutra? You just read it carefully. If there's something you don't understand, ask your father. Blind old Lu ignored Biao's jokes. He advised him if there was anything he didn't understand, he should go and ask Mr. Gong. The three continued their journey back home. Blind old Lu's story made Biao understand that he needed to be more careful because the fight against Shen Long would not be easy. And he could suffer heavy consequences for any carelessness.